In section 3.1, we kind of introduced this chapter, chapter 3, which starts to talk in a lot more detail about compounds. Now, if you think about compounds, what you should be thinking about just is that these are the substances that make up everything that we really want to talk about in terms of matter and in the world. And the other thing you want to really just kind of pick up about this is that the specific compound you're talking about is or has the properties that it does because of not only the elements present, but also because of the connections that exist. Okay? So both of those are critical aspects. For instance, hydrogen and oxygen as a gas, each of those as a gas, can react, can rearrange their connections and end up as water, which has a fixed ratio of hydrogen atoms and oxygen atoms. Now the properties between the two are very different. Between being a gas at room temperature and down to very low temperature, still being a gas, being able to react violently with each other in terms of a very flammable, explosive reaction, to water, which is liquid at room temperature and is not going to burn no matter how hard you try. When things rearrange their bonds, even if they're contained, have the same elements in their composition, the rearrangement of the bonds and the new ratios of atoms will provide different properties. And we just have seen most likely a lab at this point that has shown you how chemical changes can be observed. And the main way that we see chemical changes is by a change in the properties of the compound. Now, another second example here of this is we have sodium metal, a shiny, highly reactive explosive with water metal. We have chlorine gas, a very highly toxic yellow vapor. And when the two of these react, we end up with this substance made up of the combination of their atoms and these nice repeating units that are attracted to each other ionically. And these form this crystalline material, sodium chloride, which is table salt, which has completely different properties than explosive shiny metal and highly toxic yellow gas. This has tasty little, clearish white crystals. So that's what we're going to be looking about in this chapter. We're going to learn all about compounds. We're going to learn how to name them, which will be critically important throughout the rest of the semester. We'll learn how to distinguish between the different types, which will give you indications of both their properties and the rules that have to be used for naming them. We'll learn how to quantify different aspects of them in terms of how many moles of a compound we have, how many moles of molecules, I should say, of a compound that we have for a certain weight of that compound, certain amount of mass. And we're going to look at reactions in this chapter in terms of when things change from one compound to another. How can we describe that in a quantitative and qualitative way?